As you
And
like it.
like, and while this whole, you know, conversation might be just like another blip in the universe of sound bites, I feel like you know, this is the way we can kind of create those vibrations in the world of media. And you know, whoever wants to tap in can tap in. And you know, these are resources I'm creating for the community, the greater community. It's free resources for people that just need to hear it from others, you know, not
Absolutely.
really. Yeah. So hey, so I
Vital.
get started with the intro. So welcome to our YouTube channel and podcast show. I'm going to be posting it on both YouTube and podcast. Now, let me introduce you to everybody. Kana, I don't want to miss out that part. Friends, welcome to season 2, where our topic is all about mental health and conscious leadership. And I want to introduce you to my friend Kana Leya. And she's a founder of Global Impact Group, which is a social enterprise. And she's also a founder of a social impact investment firm. She is so committed on this journey of helping others, you know, bridge through generational storytelling. And she's also a facilitator at heart. So she and I have worked together before. When I used to have my yoga studio, we used to host women's circles together. But it's been a while since we have seen each other in person, in the flesh, because Kana's been traveling around Australia, and she's been doing a lot of other things than just, you know, being in Sydney and doing what she does. But I would like her to tell you what she's been up to. But without further ado, I just want to say thank you for coming today. Really lovely to have you. And today's topic is, by the way, authenticity. So we're going to talk about how to lose the fear of being yourself. And I couldn't think of anybody else to talk to about this than my unique and lovely, amazing cosmic friend, Kana. So.
Thank you so much, dear Supriya. It's such a blessing and an honor and a real joy to reconnect in this way, and to have sensed both of our elements of our journeys of growth and introspection and authenticity. So it's such a treat and a delight to meet everyone here as well, and look forward to how it all blossoms. Here we go, a call from...
The mailman came. I'm going to get back to Kana now. Thank you so much for your patience.
It's all good, my love. It's all perfect. So where were we flowing to? We were flowing to... What's just celebrating us reconnecting and being on this authentic journey together, and so looking forward to the blooms of the Seva podcast ongoing.
Yes, you know, it's been like we were saying the other day when we were conversing over the phone, that what difference would a podcast make? You know, a podcast or a YouTube show like this is really just a resource for people like ourselves that can just find information online, you know, and then take the next step on their journey. So this is you know, this is information that people like you exist in this world. We think alike, you know, and it's happened for us. So this is the point of creating such a resource. Yeah,
indeed. I mean, it's vital, I feel, especially during these times, Supriya, given that we're so interconnected globally online, and yet in place in terms of communities. For me, that's where I draw a lot of my authenticity inspiration from. And so storytelling has been part of our collective history for millennia, upon generations, within every culture. So, and that's daily, regularly, consistently. Whereas our modern society, the way it's been designed post-industrial revolution, I feel like that's really marginalized and really separated the power and the nurturance of storytelling away from our souls and our beings. So it's so important to recultivate it and really, like we were sharing when we were conversing, really honor our voice and take our space for each of our brothers and sisters, and equally for ourselves, because we're not vacuums, we're all mirrors for each other. So thank you so much again.
Oh, yes. You see, this is what I mean, people. I mean, whatever Kana says, she is 100%. I'm 150% in resonance with you. And again, thank you so much for being one of my sisters that I can, work with. Yeah, so let's get into it. The topic of authenticity is really one of the topics on our channel because I offer trainings and mentorships and coaching for people that are on this journey of becoming yoga teachers or just taking their personal care or self-care to the next level. And when it comes down to, taking care of ourselves in this world, one of these pillars are authenticity. I find that even especially now with the pandemic, where we are either all alone at home being a solo person, or we are crowded or overcrowded in one home, where there's no space. And it becomes such a need to know how to be authentic in these circumstances, where we are facing our own level of challenge, in daily life. So how has life changed for you? Like, well, how are things different for you in this pandemic? Pressure cooker.
Pressure cooker indeed. I call it very much, it's like a diamond furnace. That's how I've felt it. And also, it's also how I live life. So I'm very grateful in the sense that, a number of us facilitators and practitioners in the field, a lot of these tools and practices, we live by this for decades or, for a long time and so forth, depending on our unique journeys. So this unique pandemic period of time definitely increased in terms of my opportunity to do my work and to face the fire. And yet it was also an acknowledgement of myself and a number of our brothers and sisters and fellow facilitators globally. I really felt us, in a sense, like holding the fort, being pillars in our own way, doing the work, committing to the process. The only way is through. So in many ways, I'm grateful to have realized that in many ways. And also equally, I took it as a priority for me to equally stretch beyond my comfort zone in terms of researching how the coronavirus and the pandemic has affected locally, regionally, nationally, globally, communities across every country as much as I could in terms of data, so that I could gather a much more clear context rather than being in some ways the myopia of, in any environment we can be myopic unless we actively stretch ourselves. So that's been a real strengthening of my muscle in this way. Yeah. Those are some elements. And equally, I've been on a emotive level, it's deeply stretched my compassion scope. And equally, I've also felt sad and disappointed and angry and very shocked and horrified to some degree with some of how the societal consciousness is arising. And as we'd mentioned in our previous conversing, that from my perspective, it's very much a collective purge and a collective getting to know ourselves, and therefore to even get to know each other and how we are going to relate. So it's deep times.
Right. Yeah. It's a deep time for actually big relationships, relationship to do with everything, ourselves, our planet, our neighbors. And in fact, as I was sharing with you, I've had my lessons come up in this circumstance as well, where I've actively felt now it's a mission for Seva to become a social business, so that we raise awareness of this that we all have to share a responsibility toward, being shoulders for others to stand on when the time is, the time calls for it, so
Exactly.
it's, yeah. And as I've put that out there, as I've now become more vocal about it, because at first I thought, oh, what if I can't stand up to the responsibilities that come with it, and all the what ifs, the fears and doubts and things. But as I've, speaking in terms of authenticity and everything like that, as I've just kept taking the steps forward in talking to you about it, you're a social entrepreneur, and I've found more detail about you just from the recent conversations more than ever before. And then my friends in other circles are sending me information about how else to get actively involved in all of this. It's just amazing how you then start to attract more into your world to support your, yourself, the who you are right now. So so I mean, this is where I wanted to ask you to comment on what you feel like. What do you feel like authenticity is all about, in terms of, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, in terms of my
Yeah.
experience and my perspective, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of my favorite subjects and devotions in life. So it's just perfect, like nectar for us both to share in this space. For me, the essence of authenticity is self-awareness with truth, and therefore courage in action. And of course, there's many different ingredients and elements related with each of these core pillars. But if we don't have any one of them, or if we're missing a particular essence or a section, then for me, in my experience, it's not fully authentic in that moment, or my actions can't be fully truthful. As you were sharing elements of your journey, sister, it's also reminds me of the fact that we're both urban yogis, and we have a devotion to the breath of life and union. And in my experience, for me to be a one with anything, I need to be fully empty first, and inhale, exhale, right, the space between. And so the core essence for authenticity is to be deeply self-aware in every moment of my motives, my values, my abilities, my compass. And when I have the full courage, when I always commit to the courage to distill that essence, it's only then that can I be a clear vessel or a clear compass in order to then move and relate to the world and relate to other beings or community or the earth or society. And then the next step is Seva in action, right? Courage in action, to serve. So what is it all for? It is multiple layers, I feel, and spectrums of being authentic, and then embodying that authenticity in every facet of life. Because I really feel, based on first principles, the universe is authentic in its own essence, right? It's its own way. It's just cultural conditioning and unhealthy behaviors and so forth, and the collective ego or the collective shadow confusing oneself or our collective. And so the actual practice, I feel, is to devote to clarity, to truth, to emptiness first and foremost, even if it's the most challenging emotion that you'll feel, and the voices all come, and the fears all come and dance and have a good dance and have a good challenge.
Without break. Without a break.
Yeah, especially if one is courageous enough to claim the responsibility of who we need to be during these times and what we're here for.
Absolutely, you said it. What I'm hearing is, you're saying that, first we need to declutter. We declutter, we find what's true for us, and then we've got something to anchor into and align to, and then come from that to serve. And that's really Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it. You can't change who you are. That's the other point. You are already a soul within this body, and you have a mission of your own already. There are certain things that are so true for you than they are for anybody else. But there are so many like you, and there are so many like you and I. We sound different, we look different, we have different ways of doing things, but we connect. Why? Because we've got that imprint, we've got that authenticity, that that frequency that connects us, like someone listening to a radio channel, and that radio channel is a frequency that all people that think alike will connect to inevitably. And that takes decluttering, getting rid of the disturbances of the noise,
The non-resonance.
the noise. Yeah, and like this is the problem in today's I guess when we talk about urban society, urban way of living, like you mentioned, conditioning, that confuses us. I actually just did a Facebook live today on, how to separate yourself from the noise daily, and without ejecting life, because right now we can't eject our lives, we can't get out of our life. So we have to develop that practice, to kind of, that's another topic on its own, but it's
all connected.
It's all connected. It's all, under that toolbox, inside that toolbox of how to then, like you said, the diamond in the fire. This is the fire of the diamond getting shined. So
and getting carved in its edges, and discovering what those edges are for ourselves.
Exactly.
And being truthful to them, and then it's also a blessing. Likely you agree, sister. It's the blessing that we can offer each other and ourselves, because it's all here for us. Like whether it's the lesson or the joy or the bliss or the challenge, it's in the sharing of the authenticity that I feel then blossoms into what is meant to be created beyond just ourselves. So it's just what I live for. I mean, one of my core values is truth.
Values,
So
yes.
Veritas vos liberabit is one of my favorite quotes. It's a Latin quote of, the truth shall set you free.
Let's just take that in for a moment. let's just let that sit for a moment.
And may it set all beings free.
Yeah, and I want to touch on this, because this is the way I find that this is where we get the topic of, being fearless, having no fear to pursue that path, to kind of take the steps towards that authenticity, or towards that frequency, towards that radio channel, that's speaking to us. So what do you think? I mean, if you were to look back on your journey, what kind of fears were you dealing with back when,
Yes.
What did you have to overcome? Could you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely, Dilly. Wow. Well, again, similarly with you, as an immigrant, cultured female woman in a colonized country that is on a very deep cultural level, somewhat the opposite of our birth cultures, yours being Indian and mine being Chinese. There's so many considerations as one comes of age. Like, so many questions and ponderments and arose for me, and I'm grateful that I was always a very introspective person from very young age, and I was very grateful to have been offered a number of leadership and community contribution type positions since I was quite young, thankfully. And so that had already
Yeah,
kind of reared
perfect.
me into the being that I am. And yet equally, you know, like coming out of that school environment, 18, 19, it's that pivotal time of, okay, considering what type of person do I want to be? What do I stand for? What are my values?
Mm.
And that's when those elements of, yeah, like which culture do I resonate with, or which elements of the culture do I, of the ones that are at least obvious, do I resonate with, and do I have the courage to truly blaze what in my heart and in my soul, in my observation, I knew to be truth, in the sense that me and our generation, it's our core responsibility is to blaze new wisdom culture, is to honor like wisdom culture across the different wisdom cultures, learn what resonates and what is truly wise, and then to deeply honor that actually there's many elements that is not healthy. And so to have the courage to be confronted with that responsibility, like you were saying, to truly stand on the shoulders of giants before us, and equally be the shoulders for the generations to come, in our own generation. So those fears of, and one of those arisings was in my mid-20s, was realizing how deeply connected I was with the Indigenous culture of this land, and also all lands. And
Mm.
so coming from quite a very simple, frugal, vanilla type, like Hong Kong cultural bubble growing up, that is very much the dichotomous opposite of like being unabashedly authentic, which is, and I feel like so many of the Indigenous cultures that I resonate with, that's the core tenet. You know, it doesn't matter the externalities. These beings stand with such grace and honor, and they have such pride, like healthy pride in themselves. So that was a core challenge for me, to really breathe that in. Like, really, this is part of my walk, and this is part of my path of responsibility. You know, all those questions of, you know, who am I to be this? Like, am I good enough, and so forth,
Mm.
right? Isn't there somebody else that could do that?
We're looking for authority to give us that permission again and again,
Right.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
again,
that's, yeah,
coming from an Indian and Chinese culture,
yeah.
there's that reverence, respect for our elders, and
Mm.
so it's very, and I love that. I love that, of course, but it's yeah, it's very challenging to be truly authentic, to be quote unquote against all that I've grown up around, and to know to be quote unquote good,
Yeah,
and to really truly
exactly.
discover
Good
what is good
girl,
for
or
society.
yes. Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
So
yeah.
those are some of the core elements, I would say core lessons in my early 20s or late teens
Mm.
that I had to
Yeah,
really.
and those are the values where what we grow up with from our own cultural upbringings. You know, they serve a purpose up until a point, you know, and I always say to my family that, you know, I feel really blessed to have been born in the East and then brought to the West, you know, and then naturally I gravitated towards the East again, you know, with regards to how I want to anchor myself to remain neutral to all the changes, all the new things that I'm learning. But at the same time, recognizing that a lot of my mentors that were in my family didn't really
Mm,
have answers, or in my family of, you know, wherever I belonged, like in school or at home or friendships, you know, at that
mm,
time they didn't really
mhm,
have a clear answer about why they do things the way they do. So, you
mm.
know, the option was really minimal for me to, and internet wasn't really a big resource back
Not
then.
yet.
So, you know, so self-inquiry and, you know, and just being called the black sheep was very normal back then, you know, the black sheep of the
Mm.
family. It was just like, well, she's gonna be the rebel, you know. And I even got a
It's
nickname
trailblazer.
from one of my teachers in high school saying,
Mhm.
oh, there's Supriya, the rebel without a cause.
And yet she fully found her cause. I love that. I love learning
There's
about that.
comments, yeah, because, you know, because there's I mean, you don't have to necessarily have this energy about you, but I think a lot of us that are timid from the start will shy away from kind of questioning things, even if they notice, along the journey that, what we grew up with served a purpose, but now it's time to actually go to examine whether this is what I take with me, or do I need to actually create some space for new tools, new ways of doing things that are more like me, that are more suitable for me, and the
Precisely, authentic to yourself.
yes.
Indeed, well said. Well said,
Yeah.
darling. And that, I feel like that also pertains to what you're sharing, and our shared experience pertains to, at certain chapters of our lives, there's
Yes.
opportunity
Yes.
for right, in a sense, rites of passage. Like it's what participating for as well in interdynamics. There's opportunity to whether we align to our true soul journey or to what society is trying to supplant as to what we need to do. And the more of us that actually even explores and discovers what a soul journey is, and the steps and the journeys and the cycles that it has to take on that journey, then it's more solid as representations for others to see that it's possible, to feel that it's possible. And in fact, it's actually imperative to actually survive as a species, in this current day and age. This pandemic, it's on the surface, it looks like a pandemic, right? And yet on a conscious, energetic level, it's the collective soul or the collective experience that we're all on, deeply challenging ourselves to really look and discover what's really going on inside ourselves and within each other, how society is designed, what are the normalities that we had accepted to some degree growing up, like without internet. Some of those are, you work a 9-to-5 job, and right, like your body intelligence is disconnected with your emotional, physical interbeing experience. So much disconnection. And so this is such an opportunity for us to really heal and really cherish this life that we have, this gift that we have together.
Right at the beginning, what you said, I loved what you said, and I want to bring that up again. Like nature, Mother Nature is authentic. Like everything is in nature is so authentic, And so that's the philosophy. That's a philosophy on its own, that you carry that imprint with you throughout life. If we can all learn to become more flexible, that yes, in this season of my life, I need this, I need this to be able to feel like myself, feel more alive, feel more like I'm living my purpose, or whatever you want to make your, And I guess, when it comes to the structure and the framework and everything like this, there are frameworks out there that, yoga, of course, offers one, but it's not all there is. Yoga it's very misunderstood by many people, because yoga has been seen to offer just this look, like, if you can do this advanced posture, then that's when you're doing yoga. Or if you've got a nice following on your Instagram account, then you are really a yogi, or you're really doing the practice and whatnot. But it's like when we are looking for answers, where should we look, do you think? Where do we look for answers about, are we going the right way, Of course the answer is simple, but simple is always not easy. How do we find our way in,
Indeed, darling. Such a potent question. Thank you. For me, I always come to the wisdom cultures, the timeless wisdom cultures that are represented in multiple cultures around the world. And so I always aim to learn the core concepts and the core principles of, for example, the Indian culture, the Vedas, or the Chinese culture, the Maori, the Native American Indian, any culture that's actually in balance with nature and their spirit and soul, and then their beautiful expression of culture, of meaning, how they celebrate and how they honor life. And so I always bow to that, and equally with a discerning calibration of, if it's not embodied, then I'll lovingly respect it, but I'll have a healthy distance from it.
Yeah,
I think like it's the embodiment piece, rather than any like self-righteous claim to wisdom. Right,
this is the way.
And then using, in a sense, the thousands of years of cultivation of our collective human experience, and also with nature, using it as like a self-righteous badge of honor or something when it's not embodied. So that's a really core element. And I feel like I'm quite stoic as well. I would say I resonate with stoicism and the practice of deep reflection, the practice of dialogue. So and in particular, song and prayer, I would advise and encourage everyone to find that and to really learn that, and again to focus on the essence and not the noise, right? And so those are, I would say, to come back to oneself, because when one can learn from beings that have come before us, it's only then that we learn from their mistakes, so that we don't repeat them, and that we can carve our own era, our own evolution. And
we need to pause there. That's a real piece of gem that you just shared. We need to learn from the ones that came before us, so we don't repeat their mistakes. And that's so potent. That's so beautiful.
Thank you, Dion. I feel like it pertains to, I feel like at our core, we're humble beings. Like we're strong and powerful, quote unquote. And I know that's quite a maxim of the consciousness community currently. I feel like it's over hubris. Like it's when we are, yes, strong and amazing beings, and yet we're tender and we're vulnerable, and we're really here to we're just so simple, like like you were saying earlier in the call, like we're a blip in the collective journey. So who are we to think that we're that all almighty? And I feel like that's one of the biggest diseases of the collective currently, that's playing up in its reactions. So basically to humble ourselves is a really, I feel, imperative ingredient to that path.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. You see, this is where your hearing you reminded me of why do I believe in Ayurveda and yoga. And one of the reasons I believe in it is because it's just allowed me to be myself, being in body, being able to see all the patterns that create me, who I am every day. If I'm being a certain way or thinking a certain way, Ayurveda has answered that, because it studies nature, and it's the study about life, So it reminded me of that time where I realized, oh my God, this is what I'm actually studying, myself as energy and creation itself. And while we're a blip in the cosmos, we're all blips. We all impact each other, and where that blip is going to start a blip elsewhere, and then this is and that's the power of being a blip in the first place.
Let's all be authentic blips.
I mean, the other day, one of my friends posted something about this too shall pass, and it's a meme. And I kind of had a joke with it, saying, but Vedanta says that, in the grand scheme of things, this what we call this too shall pass doesn't even happen or doesn't even exist. So it means nothing,
Yeah. It's like this too shall pass, and yet this is also nothing.
This is also nothing. Yeah, don't attach. Yeah, and so that's how, that's what gives me courage to teach this, to embody it. That yeah, well, you really can't stuff it up. You really can't.
That's right, indeed. I mean, we were birthed and created this way. Like we were already winners in that sense. Like from the beginning, from the very first moment of inception, of conception, it's like we really can't get it wrong if we trust that.
This is why we need people like you and me to be friends, and multiply this by millions, like
absolutely billions. Yeah.
To remind us to go, yes, you've got to remember to trust that you can't get it wrong.
So beautiful, Deli. I love that.
You can't. And this is the beauty of this week. This is the beauty of this week. Like I said, people are sending me links to other social entrepreneurs, and most of them are women, by the way, that I'm being sent. I'm sure I know men as well in the social business sphere. But I'm noticing how passionate people become after being touched by this concept of what do I believe in? What do I believe should be the right thing at this very point in time? There's a need for us to do that, because I feel like, too often, especially I can only speak of where my expert vision has been, which is like the yoga scene, or the education of being a yoga teacher and all that. I can only say that there's a lot of referencing other people, and there's a lot of this is the way and that is not the way, etc. Yeah, and it's sort of suffocating, it's oppressive in a way. But we also need some guidance about how to be authentic, how to be a host of the traditions, but also be yourself with it, like you are doing. That's why I feel like you do that so effortlessly, like with all the traditions that you believe and subscribe to. And yet, you are speaking it from your vessel. Do you know what I mean?
Indeed, there's no idolizing or projecting. That's the prayer, because it's when we do that, that's when I feel then I'm out of authenticity.
That's
like
it.
That's I feel like the wisdom keepers, the elders have always, that's their core message.
Thank you.
Like,
thank you for saying that.
Me. They're like, don't look to me. Look within. Look to yourself. We are this sovereignty, this consciousness that wants to realize itself continuously again and again. And I feel like it's really important, the concept of artisanship. I would love to bring this up now, darling. Like,
yes, please.
There's a sage archetype that we were mentioning earlier, in terms of, some of the traditions that we resonate with. Like, there's a way, and there's not, this is the way, or this is not the way, so forth. And then there's a real grace with being an artisan, to really honoring that we are artists as well. We are artists of life, and to be an artist comes revolutionary courage. It comes with swiping the slate empty and clear, and then going, okay, now this is the next chapter. This is the next level of the dojo. How deeply can I bow to this? How deeply can I die within the fire of truth, in order to really honor what I've learned, like what I've been gifted by all the traditions or the wisdom keepers? And that's the Shiro's journey, or the hero's journey.
Yes,
that is
Shiro's
time immemorial.
Shiro's journey. One of my favorite books.
What did you say, Deli?
One of my favorite books. Joseph Campbell. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. One of my faves too, like bless him. And it's so it's that element. And also, I just so loved you mentioning your love for Ayurveda and part of your background, because it's imperative. It's just it makes so much sense for you to
Yeah.
blossom into this next stage of your life being a social entrepreneur. For me, it's one and the same. Like you being a yogi and a teacher and a facilitator and a student of life and an Ayurvedic devotee, like it's one and the same. It's
Yes.
so
Yeah.
you studied systems of well-being, and then you studied systems of breath and consciousness, and then systems of health of one's organs and how that interrelates with the collective body, as in the physical body. And now you're stretching and manifesting into, okay, what is the bodies of society and the bodies of community and our larger world and our earth? It's one and the same to me. Like
I
it's
know
a beautiful
you catch
journey.
it. You catch it. And like when we talk about authenticity, like I said, one of my fears, or I guess it was a growth spurt that happened recently,
Mm,
and I feel like it happens for different people at different times of their life, and for good reason, for authentic reasons. We are
exactly.
not yeah, no one's time is the same as anybody else's. And like you have been in my life for many years now in some way or another. And this is the beauty of it, is that uh, you could be having the resources around you, but it's your own calling that you have to listen to get the information, to bring the information into your reality. So that's also part of the journey of authentic behavior or authenticity in your own life. Speaking truth from a place of truthfulness, there's overcoming of fears or blocks or limiting beliefs, changing mindset, and I guess simply put, it's a growth spurt, it's a learning, it's a growth, it's a phase of growth, into like you said, micro to macro, but we can't simplify it. It can't be so simple that, oh, whatever I do is affecting. Yeah, it is. And at the same time, taking on that responsibility when you're ready is also part of that, structure of sustainability. Like, I want you to be in this game long term. Do you know what I
Yes,
mean? I tell myself
exactly.
that. Yeah.
Mm,
Oh, I tell myself that all the time. And one of the things is sustainability is so important in our micro to macro. We forget that, the little gains, the daily gains needs to add up to the greater good of all as well. I can't be always just grabbing all the toilet paper I like and bringing it all home, not sharing. Well, what's that going to get me? Where is that going to get me?
I
So
hear
then
you.
that's the flavor.
It's
Yeah.
I love it. I love it, darling, that you have transposed, the theories and the concepts that we've mentioned into beautiful examples as well, and simple and yet very representative examples of where we're at, and I feel like perhaps the element of pain and suffering and the willingness to not overplease others, and to perhaps even lovingly challenge others, is really
Yeah.
core to this authentic journey.
Yeah.
Um, good pain, healthy pain is necessary for growth. Healthy suffering to a certain degree, and I know that's a very loaded, multi-layered term, which would require probably multiple podcasts for us to really,
Yes.
like really nuance.
Yes.
But for example, that example of the toilet paper element, that's such a symbolism, I feel, of this over individualisticness of, grabbing all that I can need or so forth, or supposedly what I think I need,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And
Yeah.
then that, okay, so if we choose that option on multiple levels in our life, that's just one micro example, then we're actually then taking away the opportunity to share and grow in hardship with others. And that creates bonds, that creates trust, that actually like true love and true community is foundational on. So I would encourage our listeners, your listeners to this podcast and your show, and your students, it's to really deeply consider, when we choose one thing, the what effect it has on the vacuum, on the what am I not investing in? What am I not actually tending to? The soil of our hearts, the soil of our soul, and equally also the soil that actually cultivates the food that we eat, you know. So yeah, I feel that's
it's
really core.
about a broadening. It's about a broadening of perspective, and you know, it's about being in a lifestyle. You know, it's a lifestyle that is serving a purpose to just not you but others. And like we were saying, a blip creates another blip and all that. So it's a, what can we say? It's being thoughtful, but then, you know, without sacrificing your own being's well-being, but also it always somehow makes sense anyway when you are being really authentically true and asking yourself, what do I really need at this very moment and day? It will never be an answer where, oh, I should have to take from someone else to be okay today. You know, the answer is never authentically that, because there's plenty for everybody else. You know, there's plenty for everybody else. We're all taken care of. And it just depends on how we are asking ourselves, you know, and what we are seeking at the end of the day. So see, these, of course, we need to do other podcasts together and shows together to talk about these other concepts that came up today. But when it comes down to our topic today, what do you want our listeners to start with? What do you think they should be asking themselves now about? Yeah, where would you get them started on if you had to be the catalyst for inquisition?
Together as co-catalysts together.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, I just wish to thank and really champion whomever is on this call together, and that we've been blessed to have received your collective energy on this journey. However it pulses into the future, it all makes a difference. And so within this, I feel it adding to my life and my learning. So I'm really deeply grateful. And the question I would offer is, we live this one life, you know, whether we believe in, whether, you know, individual beings believe in reincarnation and so forth. Let's just say that the invitation is, in this life, we live this one life. That, like, really, I'd really invite anyone listening to really sit with this and be with this for as long as it takes, whether it's minutes or hours or days or however long that process is meant for you. I really truly invite you and encourage you to journey into that question. What does this life mean for you? What would you like it to mean for you? This deep blessing that we've been gifted of consciousness and awareness, that we can even understand the words that are coming out of each other's mouths, and then to articulate that into different ways. It's the most wondrous miracle that we've been gifted. And so to take your time and to claim that time, however long you need, to really sit and be and breathe that into every iota of your being. And from that space, I'd invite you to consider your 3 core values that will guide you for the rest of your life, and that you will stand by and commit to learning and embodying, even if everything around you and every person in your life that is important to you, or everything that seemingly is important to you, even if no one believes you and everyone disagrees with you and everyone has some sort of projection or judgment, even if that happens and you still choose your core values, that's when you know that you're truly authentic to yourself, and that is the deepest blessing and gift you can offer anything and anyone around you, even if it's not obvious at the time. It still has its own magic and its own timing. So deepest of blessings for your journey, and again, so grateful, sister.
Thank you so much from all of us, Kana, and you are a blessing, of course, to listen to and be associated with, linked with. If you are getting to witness her like this and you're feeling the energies flow through you as it's flowing through me, you know, we'd love to have you again and share your wisdom again. That would be amazing if you would be willing to.
Oh, it's so fun to journey together in continuum. I feel like with you, it's the rest of our life, and it's such a blessing.
Shakti.
Shakti. Oh, so good.
Yeah, I truly feel blessed to know you and collaborate with you whenever we do. It's always effortless. And you know, part of this journey of being in our own authentic worlds, and then, you know, bringing wisdom from each other's worlds, you know, and then finding these truths is also a real great joy in my life. So I really appreciate your friendship and collaboration with me. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll say goodbye now, but you will be back. Thank you.
We shall do. Thank you, darling.
Thanks.